Hello folks, and welcome to another Know Your Ship episode, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about the SS Scharnhorst and her fate. Now I do have to tell you ahead of time that this episode is a little bit light on images, so hopefully my narration and your imagination will have to make up for it. But hang on a minute, you say, I thought this was supposed to be about a warship. Well, it is, but the story doesn't actually start there. See, back in 1934, the SS Scharnhorst was launched, and she was completed in 1935 and would serve as an ocean liner for Norddeutsche Lloyd. The SS Scharnhorst was 190 meters long, displaced roughly 18,000 tons, and was capable of 21 knots. She had an interesting connection to the warships in the Kriegsmarine by being a testbed for the new high-pressure, high-temperature boilers, which were later fitted to many other German warships. These high-pressure boilers were important to future warships because getting it right would allow for much smaller turbines to be fitted, and this would of course free up a lot more space for everything else on an actual ship. When the Scharnhorst was built, she was one of the finest passenger liners in the world. She was employed on Far East routes and even took German passengers on cruises under the Third Reich's Strength Through Joy program, which offered Germans vacations at bargain rates. The outbreak of World War II, however, changed everything. The Scharnhorst was stuck in Kobe, Japan, and there was no way to safely bring her back to Germany. Her passengers, however, did make it back to Germany via the Trans-Siberia Railway. Finally, on February the 7th of 1942, the Japanese Navy bought the ship under an agreement that would see them pay Norddeutsche Lloyd twice the value of the ship after the war. Or another version that I actually saw is that they would compensate Germany 2 valuable freighters after the war. But I couldn't find out which of those two stories were correct, so we just have to say they would compensate somebody 2 times something. Initially, the plan was for the Japanese Navy to use her as a troop ship, and work began on that front. However, only 4 months later, in June of 1942, the Japanese Navy would suffer a massive defeat at the Battle of Midway and lose 4 of their crucial carriers. This immediately shifted the Japanese Navy's focus on rebuilding their carrier forces, and the Scharnhorst would be converted into the escort carrier, the Shinyo. To convert the Scharnhorst into an actual carrier, the Japanese looked to other conversions that they had already made to their own ocean liners. Since the Scharnhorst was relatively similar to the Nitamaru class ocean liners, which had already been converted to the Taiyo class escort carriers, the conversion for the Scharnhorst followed a pretty similar plan. The original upper deck area was completely removed and replaced with a hangar. This was topped with a flight deck that was 179.8 meters long. The navigating bridge was positioned at the forward end of the hangar under the flight deck overhang. The main differences between the Scharnhorst conversion and the Nitamaru conversions was that the Shinyo retained part of the Scharnhorst's original propulsion machinery. Her turboelectric drive was retained, but her high-pressure boilers were problematic, so they were removed, and the Shinyo had external bulges added to help increase stability. Upon completion, the Shinyo displaced 20,586 tons fully loaded, could manage a maximum of 22 knots. At 19 knots, however, she had a range of approximately 17,000 kilometers. Upon completion, she had 8 127mm dual-purpose guns in 4 twin turrets and 30 25mm anti-aircraft guns. She carried 33 aircraft, 27 of which were operational, and 6 spares. The Shinyo had a crew of around 900. Now, some estimates for the crew ran as low as 825, and some were as high as 1,200, so 900 would be the most standard number that I could find, but there are discrepancies there. By November the 1st of 1943, the Shinyo had had her sea trials and had ran a shakedown cruise and was formally commissioned into the Imperial Japanese Navy on the 15th of November 1943. On the 16th of December, Captain Ishii Shizue, the former commanding officer of the Junyo and the Chuyo, was assigned as the Shinyo's new commanding officer. She was assigned to the Grand Escort Command on the 20th of December, although for the first 6 months of 1944 she stayed around the home islands conducting training missions. Right before escorting her first convoy, the Shinyo was refitted with additional 25mm anti-aircraft guns up to a maximum of 50. Finally, on the 13th of July 1944, the Shinyo undertook her very first convoy escort, HI-69, to Singapore, under the command of Rear Admiral Sato Tsutomu of the 8th Escort Convoy, which consisted of 14 Marus and 2 other escort carriers, the Taiyo and the Kayo, which were both bound for the Philippines. Since the Taiyo and the Kayo were both ferrying planes, the Shinyo was tasked with aerial cover for the convoy. The Shinyo arrived in Manila with the Taiyo and the Kaio on the 20th of July, completing her very first convoy escort mission. From the 25th of July to the 3rd of October, the Shinyo accompanies convoys HI 70, 75, and 76, all without incident. On the 15th of October, 1944, Captain Ishii is promoted to the rank of Rear Admiral. November the 9th, 1944, as the fighting in the Philippines raged on, the Shinyo was assigned to an important Luzon reinforcement convoy, HI 81. 14 Kates of the 931st Air Squadron flew out from Saeki Naval Air Station and landed on the Shinyo. On the 14th of November, the Shinyo departed Imari Bay, escorting convoy HI 81 for Singapore with elements of the 23rd Infantry Division, which would separate and proceed to Luzon via stopover at Formosa. On the 15th of November, 1944, the convoy splits up, and the Shinyo takes up position at the rear of the center of 3 columns of ships. At 11:56, the Akitsumaru, a ship that is best described as an amphibious assault ship, is hit by 2 torpedoes fired from the USS Queenfish and sinks with a loss of over 2,000 aboard. Most of the men aboard that ship were from the Imperial Japanese Army's 64th Infantry Regiment. The Shinyo's planes attempt to locate and sink the submarine, but were not successful. On the 17th of November, at 0800, the Shinyo launches planes for patrol duty, and at 12:15, a B-29 is sighted. The Kates are, however, unable to climb to altitude to destroy the bomber. At 18:15 that night, as the Shinyo is recovering her last patrol aircraft, the Maya-san Maru is torpedoed by the USS Pakuda with a loss of over 3,000 men. Later that evening, at around 23:03, the Shinyo was hit by multiple torpedoes from the USS Spadefish. The first torpedo hit took out her turboelectric drive and stopped the carrier dead in its tracks. The impact of the torpedoes detonated the poorly protected aviation fuel tanks and caused a massive explosion of fire. The ship sank rapidly, her bow rising skyward, and she sank stern first into roughly 43 meters of water, her flaming bow still sticking out of the water. She sank at position 32 degrees 59 minutes north and 123 degrees 38 minutes east. Due to the fires, explosion, rapid sinking, and the delayed rescue, less than 200 survivors were rescued from the Shinyo. Rear Admiral Ishii and more than 700 men were lost. Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed the story of the other Scharnhorst and a rather brief career as a Japanese escort carrier. If you would like to see more of these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Other than that, take care, and I'll talk to you again next time.